The gala was in full swing, a glittering expanse of polished shoes, sparkling glasses, and chandeliers that caught every movement in fractured light. I had just finished adjusting my dress, smoothing the fabric across my hips when it happened. The glass of white wine hit my cheek, warm and sticky, and everything slowed, the gasp of the room, the slight tilt of heads, the sudden silence punctuated by the sharp laughter of my boss's son. He smirked as if he had executed a perfectly timed joke, the type that people laugh at to avoid awkwardness rather than amusement. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch dramatically. I brought my hand up instinctively, dabbing at my cheek with the back of my wrist, leaving a faint red streak in the damp fabric. Around me, the crowd shuffled, unsure where to direct their attention. The glances were fleeting, nervous, the kind people give when they don't want to get involved. I could feel my pulse thrumming, the heat of embarrassment threatening to rise. But I held it in check. Inside, though, my mind worked in sharp angles. Anger, yes, but controlled shock, certainly, but not paralyzing. I had been underestimated too many times to react purely on impulse. I replayed the little moments that had added weight to this one, the off-end dismissals in meetings, the subtle belittling of ideas I had presented, the casual Claire. Just handle it, that always assumed I would clean up everyone else's mess. These weren't dramatic, storybook humiliations, but the small, repeated slights that left a mark over time. Every moment of dismissal had been training, a quiet shaping of my resilience. I remembered last year, when my proposal for the regional campaign had been handed over to a colleague with a brighter smile and a louder voice. I had argued my points, quietly but thoroughly, yet the credit had vanished into the noise of the office. And yet I had stayed. I had worked. I had built my competence silently. Now, in this moment, the incident at the gala was not a breaking point. It was a catalyst. I excused myself under the guise of needing a restroom break. The hallway was quiet, far removed from the chatter and clinking glasses. I leaned against the cool wall, breathing slowly, letting the shock fade and the clarity settle. There was no need for theatrics, no need to make anyone else feel small. My leverage, if I chose to use it, was far subtler than public confrontation. Contracts, clauses, professional boundaries, these were tools my boss could not ignore. The next morning, I received the summons to my boss's office. I walked in as I always tried to, steady, composed, intentional. He was already there, standing by his desk, papers in hand. There was a hesitation in his posture, a subtle tremor in the set of his shoulders. I noticed it immediately. "Claire, I'm afraid I have to—" His words faltered. I leaned forward just slightly, letting the pause stretch. "You might want to read the contract first." The silence was immediate, thick, undeniable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't glare. I simply let the facts speak. The contract, meticulously detailed, outlined responsibilities, performance metrics, and the terms under which termination could occur. The clauses favored no whim or personal vendetta. He looked down at the pages, then back at me, eyes wide, pale. I let the moment linger, careful not to gloat, careful to keep dignity intact. The tension broke quietly. He nodded, words failing him. The authority had shifted, but it happened without spectacle. My power was procedural, factual, unavoidable. No one had been humiliated, no one had screamed, no one had drawn attention. It was a quiet, professional reclamation of respect. Walking back to my desk, I felt the residual adrenaline give way to a measured calm. I wasn't triumphant in the way movies promise, but the satisfaction was steadier, deeper. I reflected on the pattern of my life, the small injustices, the quiet dismissals, the slow accumulation of knowledge and skill that now gave me leverage. There was no need to exact revenge. The moment itself, executed with precision and patience, was enough. The days that followed were subtle in their shift. The boss's son avoided eye contact, his smirk gone, replaced with a careful, restrained politeness. Colleagues treated me with more attention, asking for input with the courtesy that had been missing for months. But nothing was overt, no celebration, no speeches, no congratulatory emails. The victory existed in the quiet recalibration of authority, in the recognition that competence and preparation outweigh arrogance and impulsive cruelty. I found myself reflecting on how power often masquerades as dominance. People expect it to be loud, visible, performative. But in truth, quiet preparation, knowledge, and timing are far more effective. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to humiliate anyone. The respect I reclaimed was mine, and it didn't depend on an audience to validate it. Memory and reflection continued to thread through my days. I recalled other moments at the office where subtle leverage could have made a difference, times when I had let others' assumptions dictate my behavior. Now, I understood that patience and strategic restraint could accumulate into undeniable strength. The gala, the glass throne, the public embarrassment, these were not endings. They were lessons, crystallized in a moment that demanded clarity and calm action. By the time another week passed, the dynamics in the office had adjusted imperceptibly. Meetings ran smoother. My voice carried weight without needing to shout. There was no animosity, no overt domination, just recognition, subtle and professional. The boss never mentioned the incident again, and neither did his son. Silence, it seemed, could speak louder than confrontation. Even outside work, I noticed the shift. Confidence seeped into small gestures, the way I held myself during lunch, the way I contributed to casual conversations, the way I navigated social interactions at industry events. It wasn't arrogance, it was a quiet acknowledgement that I had the tools to protect my dignity, to assert boundaries, and to stand firm when necessary. Some victories are not performative. Some power shifts are not dramatic. Some days, reclaiming your dignity is enough. I understood now that respect does not require spectacle, and authority does not need to be loud. It can be subtle, calculated, quiet, and yet undeniable. I didn't celebrate. I didn't announce it. I simply carried myself forward differently, quietly empowered by the realization that I was no longer underestimated. The gala faded from memory as another week of work began, but its lesson lingered. I knew now that humiliation, even public, can be met with calm clarity, and that the leverage built from knowledge, patience, and preparation is more enduring than any moment of anger or revenge. My face healed, my dress was cleaned, and the whispers of the gala became background noise. What remained was the calm, steady awareness that I was no longer the person they thought I was, and in that quiet, understated way, I had reclaimed my dignity. Not with a spectacle, not with a confrontation, but with presence, preparation, and quiet resolve. Power had shifted, subtly but unmistakably, and that was enough.